The wind reached Raven Hollow long before the rider did. It rolled through the empty streets, lifting thin spirals of dust that danced between broken fences and half-closed shutters. A loose sign creaked above the general store, tapping, 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 like something counting down. No one walked outside. Not anymore. Then, from afar on the road, a shape appeared. A horse. Slow, steady, unhurried, and the man riding it. His coat was long, sun-faded, and heavy with the dust of miles. His hat sat low, casting a shadow that hid most of his face. Only his jaw could be seen, tight, unmoving, like stone carved by time. The horse stopped in the middle of the street. The rider didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even look around like a man new to town. Instead, he listened. A sound broke the silence. A dull crack, then another, wood hitting flesh. The rider's gaze shifted slightly. Down the street, a crowd had formed. Not loud, not chaotic, just watching. He nudged the horse forward. Each step echoed too clearly in the hollow quiet, like the town itself was holding its breath. As he got closer, the scene revealed itself. A wooden post stood in the center of the street. Tied to it was a girl, her wrists bound above her head, ankles tied tight enough to force her to stand on trembling legs. Rope had already cut into her skin, dark stains spreading where blood had dried and fresh lines had reopened. Her head hung low, but she was still awake, still fighting. A man stood in front of her, rolling his shoulders as if warming up. He swung again. The crack echoed. The girl's body jerked, but no scream came out. Only a sharp breath forced through clenched teeth that made a few people in the crowd shift uncomfortably. Most didn't. Most had already learned not to react. The man chuckled, turning slightly toward the onlookers. "Still got some fight in her," he said. A few quiet laughs answered him. Nervous, hollow, not real. From the edge of the crowd, another voice spoke, smooth, amused. "Give it time." The rider had reached him now. He didn't push through. He didn't announce himself. He simply walked forward, and people moved, not because they knew him, but because something about him made standing in his way feel like a mistake. He stopped just outside the circle, close enough to see her face. For a brief moment, nothing changed. Then, the girl lifted her head, slowly. Her face was bruised. Dust clung to her skin. A thin line of blood ran from her lip. But her eyes, they were not broken. They searched the crowd, not begging, not pleading, looking, as if trying to find something that no longer existed. And then they landed on him. The rider didn't move, but something shifted, small, almost invisible. His gaze dropped just for a second to the object hanging around her neck. A necklace, simple, worn, but unmistakable. The world seemed to quiet even further. The man with the whip noticed a pause. His smile faded slightly as he followed the rider's line of sight. "Well, now," he muttered. He stepped closer to the girl, grabbing her chin roughly and forcing her face upward. "You got someone watching you?" he sneered. The girl winced, but her eyes never left the rider. Something passed between them. Not recognition. Not yet, but something close. The man turned, fully now, sizing the stranger up. "You lost, old man?" he asked, voice sharp with challenge. No answer. The rider stepped forward. Just one step. Dust shifted under his boot. And finally, he spoke. Low, calm, cold. "Let her go." No one laughed this time. The wind stopped. Even the loose sign above the store went still. For a long second, no one moved. Then, from somewhere behind the crowd, a slow clap echoed once. Then again, measured, controlled, and a new voice entered the street. Well, this just got interesting. The crowd parted, and Raven Hollow held its breath. The clap echoed one last time, then stopped. Boots pressed against the dirt as the crowd split wider. A man stepped forward. Tall, lean, clean coat despite the dust around him. His movements were slow, deliberate, like someone who never rushed because he never needed to. His eyes swept across the scene once. The bound girl, the fallen silence, and finally the stranger. A faint smile touched his lips. "Well, now," he said softly, almost amused. "Raven Hollow doesn't get visitors like you anymore." No one spoke. No one dared. The man with the whip stepped back slightly, glancing between them. "You want her?" he said, grinning again, trying to reclaim control. "Then maybe you should—" He didn't finish. The stranger moved. No warning, no build-up, just movement, a blur of dust and steel. Bang! The sound cracked through the street like lightning. The man with the whip froze. For a second, nothing happened. Then, a dark bloom spread across his chest. His grin collapsed. His knees gave out. He hit the ground hard, eyes still open, but already empty. Silence. Heavy. Unnatural. No one had seen the draw. No one had seen the aim. Only the result. The stranger stood exactly where he had been. Gun already back at his side. Like nothing had happened. A woman in the crowd gasped, covering her mouth too late. Someone stumbled backward. The illusion of control had shattered. But panic had not yet begun, because no one understood what they had just witnessed. Then, a second man reached for his gun. Too slow. Bang. His body spun halfway around before collapsing into the dust. 2 shots. 2 bodies. No wasted motion. Now the panic came. A man shouted. Another cursed loudly. Chairs scraped inside the saloon. Boots shuffled. People backed away, crashing into each other. But no one ran. Not yet, because at the center of it all, the stranger hadn't moved. Not a step, not a breath wasted. Only his eyes shifted toward the man who had stepped forward earlier, the one who had been clapping. That man's smile was gone now, not replaced with fear, but something colder. Interest. He tilted his head slightly, studying the stranger like a puzzle worth solving. "Well," he said quietly, "that was unexpected." Behind him, 2 more men drew their weapons, but hesitated. The air had changed. This wasn't a street beating anymore. This wasn't even a gunfight. This was something else. The stranger's voice cut through the tension again. Calm, unshaken. Untie her. No anger, no threat, just certainty. The man in charge exhaled slowly, almost like he was enjoying the moment. "You walk into my town," he said, taking a step forward, "kill my men and give orders?" The stranger said nothing, but his hand rested near his gun again. Not tight, not tense, just ready. The man's eyes flickered, just for a second, toward the bodies on the ground, then back to the stranger, calculating, measuring, deciding. The girl shifted against the ropes, her strength fading. The movement caught the stranger's attention again, and once more, his gaze dropped to the necklace. That same flicker, that same almost recognition. The man noticed it this time. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Ah," he murmured, "so that's what this is." A small smile returned, but now it carried weight. Danger. He stepped closer to the girl, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. Not rough, not violent. Worse, controlled. "You don't even know what you've stepped into," he said softly, eyes locked on the stranger. A pause. Then he leaned in just enough for his voice to carry. "This girl," he continued, "is not yours to save." The wind stirred again. Dust curled around their boots. The stranger finally lifted his gaze fully. For the first time, there was something in his eyes. Not anger, not fear. Something deeper. Something older. "Everyone," the man said suddenly, raising his voice just enough for the crowd. "Take a good look." The people froze again. "This," he gestured toward the stranger, "is what happens when someone forgets how things work in Raven Hollow." A long pause. Then he smiled. Not wide, not loud, just enough. 5 o'clock, he said, right there in the street, in front of everyone. His eyes locked with the stranger's. "I'll make an example out of you." No one moved. No one spoke. The moment stretched. Then he stepped back, turned, and walked away. His men followed immediately. No rush, no panic, just quiet confidence, like the outcome was already decided. The crowd slowly parted as they left, leaving behind dust, 2 bodies, and a silence heavier than before. The stranger holstered his gun, turned, and walked straight to the girl. He cut the ropes. Carefully, efficiently, she collapsed forward, but he caught her, firm, steady. For a brief second, she looked up at him again. Closer now, clearer. Her eyes searched his face. Confusion, pain, and something else, something unspoken. "Can you stand?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer, but she nodded. That was enough. He helped her up, and together they walked through the crowd. No one stepped in their way. No one even breathed too loudly, because now everyone in Raven Hollow understood one thing. This wasn't a man. This was a storm, and it had just arrived. The saloon door swung open with a low creak. Inside, the light dimmed instantly. The smell of whiskey, sweat, and old wood hung thick in the air. Conversations died the moment the stranger stepped in, supporting the girl beside him. Boots stopped mid-step. Cards hovered in the air. No one spoke. They had all heard the shots. They had all seen what happened outside. And now, that same man had walked in like nothing could touch him. Behind the bar, a woman stood still. Martha Hale. She didn't look surprised. She didn't look afraid. But her eyes moved quickly, first to the girl, then to the rope wounds, then to the man holding her steady. "Lay her here," she said, already moving. No hesitation. No questions. The stranger guided the girl to a wooden table near the window. She winced as she sat, her strength barely holding together. Martha was already at her side, cleaning the wounds with practiced hands. "You're lucky," Martha muttered quietly. "Most don't make it off that post breathing." The girl said nothing. Her eyes drifted again toward the man. He stood a few steps away, watching, silent, still, like he didn't belong in any room or any town. Martha noticed it. She glanced at him briefly. "You planning to stay?" she asked. No answer, not even a look. Martha let out a small breath, almost amused. "Didn't think so." A pause. Then, softer, "You picked a bad day to walk into Raven Hollow." The stranger finally moved. He turned and walked toward the door, still without a word. The girl's eyes followed him the entire way, until the door closed behind him. Outside, the sun had shifted lower. Shadows stretched longer across the street, and standing across from the saloon was the sheriff's office. The door was already open, like someone had been waiting. The stranger stepped inside. The room was simple. Desk, chair, rifle on the wall, and behind the desk, Sheriff Dalton Cross, older than most, worn, but not weak. His hand rested lightly near his gun, but he didn't reach for it. "Not yet." "You came back," the sheriff said. His voice was calm but careful. The stranger closed the door behind him. "I never left," he replied. A long silence followed. The sheriff studied him closely, not like a lawman judging a criminal, but like a man trying to confirm something he already feared. "You shouldn't have done that," Cross said finally. "No," the stranger answered. "You shouldn't have let it happen." The words landed heavy, not loud, not aggressive, but sharp. The sheriff's jaw tightened. "You think I had a choice?" he said quietly. The stranger stepped forward. "Everyone has a choice." Another silence, thicker this time. The sheriff looked away, just for a moment. Then he reached down and opened a drawer. From inside, he pulled out a folded map, worn, creased, marked with ink and lines. He placed it on the desk. "You don't understand this town," he said. The stranger didn't move, didn't touch the map, so the sheriff continued. "Raven Hollow isn't run by men like the ones you killed," he said. "They're just hands." A pause. Then, "The real problem is Victor Hale." The name hung in the air, heavy, controlled. "He doesn't lose control," the sheriff went on. "He doesn't rush, doesn't make mistakes." The stranger's eyes shifted slightly, listening. "Everything that happens here happens because he allows it." The room felt smaller, tighter. The sheriff leaned forward slightly. "And now," he added, "you've made yourself his problem." The stranger finally spoke. "Then he should come find me." The sheriff let out a quiet breath. "He will." A pause. Then, "And when he does, he won't come with guns first. The stranger's eyes narrowed slightly. That caught his attention. The sheriff saw it. So he said it. He'll come for the girl. Silence. For the first time, something shifted in the room. Not loud, not visible to most, but it was there. The stranger's gaze dropped just slightly. The sheriff noticed. Yeah, he said quietly. You saw it too. He reached into another drawer, pulled out something smaller, and placed it on the desk. A necklace. Identical. Same shape. Same worn metal. Same design. The stranger didn't touch it, but he didn't look away either. I found that years ago, the sheriff said. Same kind. Another pause. Then, she's not just some girl they picked at random. The stranger's voice came lower now. Colder. Say it. The sheriff held his gaze. Victor Hale doesn't keep people alive without a reason. The words settled slowly, carefully, like something dangerous being placed between them. Outside, the wind picked up again. The sound of distant movement carried through the walls. Time was moving. 5 o'clock was getting closer. The sheriff leaned back slightly. Whatever you think this is, he said, it's bigger. The stranger finally stepped forward, not toward the door, not toward the window, but toward the desk, toward the necklace. He picked it up, held it in his palm. For just a moment, the world outside faded. Dust, wind, voices, all gone. Only memory remained. A woman's face, a promise, a night that never got goodbye. His hand closed slowly around the necklace, and when he looked up again, something had changed. Not much, but enough. Where is he asked. The sheriff didn't answer right away, because now he understood something too. This wasn't just a stranger anymore. This wasn't just a gunfighter. This was something personal, something that had been buried and just got pulled back to the surface. Finally, the sheriff spoke. 5 o'clock, he said quietly. Middle of the street. A pause. Then, and this time, he won't miss. The sun had begun its slow fall. Light stretched long across Raven Hollow, turning dust into gold and shadows into something darker. Out front of the saloon, he stood alone, not leaning, not hiding, not pacing, just waiting. The street was empty now, doors closed, curtains drawn. Eyes watched from behind wood and glass, then quickly disappeared. Everyone knew what was coming. 5 o'clock, and no one wanted to be seen when it arrived. Inside the saloon, the air felt heavier, quieter. Martha worked in silence, wrapping fresh cloth around the girl's wrists. Hold still, she said softly. The girl didn't flinch this time. Her breathing had steadied. The pain was still there, but it wasn't winning anymore, not like before. Her eyes kept drifting back to window, to the man standing outside, still, unmoving, like time didn't touch him. Who is he? She asked quietly. Martha didn't look up right away. She tied the cloth firm, careful, then finally spoke. Someone who doesn't belong here, she said. A pause. Maybe someone who doesn't belong anywhere. The girl watched him a moment longer. Then he looked at me like he knew me. Martha stopped just for a second, then continued working. That's not a look you imagine, she said quietly. Silence settled again, the kind that makes thoughts louder. The girl's hand slowly lifted, shaking slightly, and touched the necklace around her neck. Her fingers tightened around it. I've had this my whole life, she whispered. Martha glanced at it, then back at her face. Where did you get it? She asked. The girl shook her head. I don't know. I was told it belonged to my mother. A pause. She died when I was young. The words landed softly, but they stayed. Martha didn't respond right away, because something about this didn't sit right. Outside, the wind shifted, stronger now. Dust moved across the street in slow waves. The door opened. The sound cut through the silence. He stepped inside. Same pace, same stillness. But now, there was something else. Something heavier behind his eyes. Martha straightened slightly, didn't step back, didn't speak. She just watched. The girl turned. Their eyes met again. Closer now, clearer. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, He stepped forward, slow, controlled, like every movement mattered. He stopped just a few feet from her, close enough to see everything. The bruises, the cuts, the strength still holding her together. And the necklace. His gaze dropped to it again. This time, he didn't look away. "Where did you get that?" he asked. His voice was different now, still calm, but no longer distant. The girl hesitated, not out of fear, but uncertainty. I don't know," she said. "It was my mother's." A pause. "She told me never to take it off." The room felt smaller, the air tighter. Martha watched both of them carefully now, because something was happening, something neither of them fully understood yet. He reached out, slowly, not sudden, not threatening. His fingers stopped just short of the necklace, like crossing that last inch meant something. "May I?" he asked. The girl nodded. He took the necklace gently, turned it slightly. His thumb brushed over the worn metal. And then he saw it, a small mark, barely visible, hidden in the design, but unmistakable. His hand tightened, just slightly. A memory hit, sharp, uninvited. A woman's laugh, soft, warm, a firelight night, a promise made under a sky full of stars. "I'll come back." A whisper, a lie he never meant to break. Then another image, her hand placing the necklace in his. "Keep it safe. I will." But he hadn't. He had lost it, lost her, lost everything that came after. His jaw tightened. The past didn't fade this time. It stayed, right there in his hand, right in front of him. He looked up, at the girl, really looked, not as a stranger, not as someone to save, but as something else, something far more dangerous. "Your mother," he said slowly. "What was her name?" The girl swallowed. "Lena." The world stopped. Not outside, not in the street, but inside him. Everything stilled. Martha saw it, the shift, the realization, the truth forming before it was spoken. The girl frowned slightly. "Why?" she asked. His voice came quieter now, lower, like it carried weight. "Because I knew her." Silence, the kind that doesn't move, doesn't breathe, doesn't let anything escape. The girl's eyes searched his face. Confusion, doubt, hope. She didn't understand yet. "You're lying," she said softly. Not angry, just unsure. He didn't answer, didn't argue, didn't try to convince her. Because this wasn't something you proved with words. This was something time would reveal or destroy. Outside, a distant sound broke through. Hooves. Slow, measured, more than one. The moment shattered. Martha turned toward the window. Her voice dropped. "They're coming!" The girl's breath caught. Fear tried to return, but something held it back this time. Something stronger. He stepped back slightly. Not far, just enough. His hand rested near his gun again. But his eyes, they stayed on her. "One question," he said. She looked at him. "When is your birthday?" She hesitated, then answered, "Late summer." Another pause, another piece falling into place. He nodded once. That was enough. Whatever doubt remained, it was gone now. Outside, the sound of hooves grew louder, closer. The ground itself seemed to feel it. The girl looked toward the door, then back at him. "What's happening?" she asked. His answer came simple, clear, final. "They came for you." A beat, then, "And now, I'm not letting them take you." For the first time, there was no distance in his voice, no mystery, no hesitation, just truth and something else, something the girl didn't fully understand yet, but felt. The door rattled slightly as the wind pushed against it. Outside, Raven Hollow was about to burn. The first hoof hit the dirt like a warning, then another, then many. Outside, Raven Hollow came back to life, but not with people, with death. The riders entered slowly, not charging, not shouting, controlled. Victor Hale led them. Same calm expression, same steady posture. But now, there was no performance in it, no show, only intent. They stopped in the middle of the street, right where the bodies had fallen earlier, right where this would end. The saloon door opened. He stepped out first. Alone, the wind pushed his coat slightly, dust swirling around his boots. Behind him, the door remained closed, but he knew she was there, watching, waiting, trusting. That changed everything. Sheriff Dalton Cross stepped out from the opposite side. This time, he didn't stay on the porch. He walked down, stopped a few steps away, gun already in hand, not hidden, not delayed. Ready? You don't have to do this, the sheriff said quietly, eyes forward, not looking at him. Neither do you, the man replied. A pause. Then the sheriff nodded once. Decision made. Across the street, Victor Hale studied them both, then smiled slightly. Interesting, he said. His voice carried without effort. I expected chaos. A small tilt of his head. Instead, I got courage. He stepped forward, boots slow against the dust. You killed my men, he continued calmly. Most would run after that. His eyes shifted slightly, toward the saloon, especially when they realized what they're standing in front of. Silence. Heavy. Intentional. Then, you know who she is? Victor asked. No answer. Victor's smile sharpened. I do. The wind dropped. Everything tightened. She's not just a girl, he said. She's leverage. The word landed like a bullet. Sheriff Cross's grip tightened. The man didn't move, didn't blink. Victor took another step. You think you're here to save her? He asked softly. A pause. Then, no, he said, almost gently. You're here because you were meant to be. That was new. That wasn't threat. That was design. The man's eyes narrowed slightly. Victor saw it. Good. That meant he was listening. I've been watching this town for years, Victor continued. Every face, every story, every weakness. His gaze locked directly onto him now. And when I saw that necklace, I knew exactly who would come looking for it. Silence. Cold. Sharp. You didn't find her, Victor said. I let you. The words cut deeper than any gunshot. Inside the saloon, the girl stood frozen, hearing everything, understanding piece by piece. Outside, Sheriff Cross shifted slightly. That's enough, he said. Victor ignored him. You lost her once, Victor continued, voice steady. Now I'm giving you a chance to lose her again. A flicker of anger moved through the air. Not loud, but real. The man's hand rested closer to his gun now. Victor noticed. Of course he did. Good, Victor murmured. Feel something. He raised his hand slightly. Behind him, 6 men spread out. Not rushed, not sloppy. Precise positions. A trap already set. This isn't a duel, Victor said. It's a lesson. The wind died completely. The street froze. No sound, no movement, only distance, and death waiting in it. Inside, the girl stepped closer to the door. Martha grabbed her arm. Don't, she whispered. They'll kill you. The girl looked back, eyes no longer afraid, just clear. They already tried, she said, and pulled free. Outside, Victor's fingers twitched. That was the signal. One of his men moved first. Too eager, too fast. A mistake. Bang. He dropped instantly, before his gun cleared leather. The world exploded. Gunfire tore through the silence. But this wasn't chaos. This was precision. The man moved. Not fast. Exact. Every step placed. Every shot final. Bang. A man spun and fell. Bang. Another dropped mid-trigger. Sheriff Cross fired. Not wild. Not scared. Controlled. Years of waiting pouring into every shot. 2 men went down under his aim. Dust rose. Smoke curled. Voices shouted. Then stopped. Because they didn't last long enough. Victor didn't move. Didn't draw. He watched. Learning. Calculating. Adjusting. 1 man tried to flank. Too late. Bang. He collapsed face first into the dirt. Now, only 1 remained. Victor Hale. The silence returned. But it wasn't empty anymore. It was heavy. Earned. Victor finally moved. Slowly. He looked down at the bodies. Then back up. You improved, he said quietly. Not mocking. Not impressed. Just acknowledging. The man said nothing. Gun steady, unshaken. Sheriff Cross stepped beside him. For the first time, they stood together. Victor's eyes shifted between them. Then, toward the saloon, the door opened. The girl stepped out, into the street. Sheriff Cross turned slightly. "No," he started. Too late. She kept walking, stopped behind the man. Close, not hiding, standing. Victor watched her, then smiled again. "Perfect," he said softly. His hand moved, fast, faster than before. Not for his gun, for something else. A hidden piece, a last move, but he wasn't the fastest. Bang! The shot echoed once. Clean, final. Victor froze. For a second, nothing changed. Then, a dark line spread across his chest. His breath caught. His eyes flickered. Not fear, not shock, just realization. He looked at the man. Really looked this time. "You were always going to win," he said quietly. A pause. "Once you remembered why you were fighting." His knees gave out. He dropped slowly into the dust and didn't move again. The wind returned. Soft, almost gentle. The street stayed silent. No cheers, no movement. Just the end of something that had lasted too long. Sheriff Cross lowered his gun. Slowly, the man did the same. Then he turned toward her. She stood there, closer now. No fear, no chains, just questions, and truth waiting to be spoken. No one moved, not at first. The dust settled slowly around Victor Hale's body, like the town itself was trying to understand what had just happened. For years, no one had stood against him. For years, no one had won. And now, he was gone, just like that. A door creaked open somewhere. Then another. Boots stepped onto wooden porches. Faces appeared from behind curtains. One by one, Raven Hollow came back to life. But no one cheered. No one celebrated. Because they all understood something. Victory didn't feel the way they thought it would. It felt heavy. Sheriff Dalton Cross stepped forward. Slow, measured. He stopped in front of Victor's body. Looked down at the man who had owned this town without ever raising his voice. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he holstered his gun. "It's over," he said quietly. Not loud enough for the whole town. Just enough for himself. Behind him, she stood still, eyes fixed on the man who had just changed everything. Her breathing had steadied, but her heart hadn't. "Not yet. Is it?" she asked softly. The question wasn't fear. It was something deeper, something that didn't trust endings. He turned toward her. For the first time since the fight, there was no distance left in his eyes, only truth, and something much harder to carry. "You're safe," he said. Simple, direct, but wasn't the answer she was looking for. Sheriff Cross stepped closer. His face had changed. The tension that held him together for years was gone, but what replaced it was worse. He reached into his coat, pulled out a folded paper. His hand didn't shake, but it wasn't steady either. "We need to finish this," he said. His voice was lower now, rougher. He handed the paper to the man. "Federal warrants," he added. "Names, crimes, everything Victor built." The man took it, didn't open it, didn't need to, because something else had already taken hold of the moment, something no one wanted to say out loud. The sheriff spoke again, quieter this time. "They found them." Silence. The wind slowed. The town held its breath again, but for a different reason. The man's eyes shifted, just slightly. "To the north," the sheriff continued. "Old mining ground." A pause, long enough to understand, too short to avoid it. They were buried shallow. The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. They landed exactly where they were meant to. The man didn't move, didn't speak, didn't react the way anyone expected. Because some pain doesn't show itself. It settles, deep, permanent. The girl looked between them. Confusion crept in. What are you talking about?" she asked. No one answered right away, because there was no easy way to say it. No clean way to deliver something like that. The sheriff forced the words out. "They had a boy," he said. 14. Her breath caught. She looked at him, at the man. trying to understand why this mattered, trying to understand why the air suddenly felt colder. The sheriff's voice dropped further. He was taken 2 years ago. A pause. Then, he didn't survive. The silence that followed was different from all the others. This one didn't carry fear. It carried loss. The man finally closed his eyes. Just for a moment. Not long, but long enough, because that was all he allowed himself. When he opened them again, they were steady, but something inside them had changed forever. The girl took a step forward. Slow, careful. Who was he? She asked. Her voice barely held together. Not because she knew the answer, but because something inside her already did. The sheriff didn't look at her. He looked at him, giving him the choice. The right, the burden. The man didn't answer immediately. He looked at the ground, at the dust, at the place where everything had ended and something else had been taken. Then he spoke. Quiet, clear. My son. The word broke something. Not loud, not visible, but real. The girl froze. Her eyes widened slightly, not fully understanding, but enough to feel it. My brother, she whispered. The realization hit slowly, piece by piece. Not just what was lost, but what had almost been. The man didn't move toward her, didn't reach out, didn't try to fill the space between them, because some distances can't be closed in a moment. Some truths need time. Sheriff Cross stepped back, giving them space, giving the moment room to exist. Around them, the town stood still, watching, not as spectators anymore, but as witnesses. Justice had come. The fear was gone. The violence had ended, but it had taken something with it. Something that wouldn't come back. The wind moved through Raven Hollow again. Softer now, lighter. The man folded the paper slowly, carefully, then tucked it away. His eyes lifted one last time, to the street, to the bodies, to the place where it all changed. Then he turned, toward her. Raven Hollow didn't celebrate. Not that day. Not the next. It just breathed again. The bodies were gone by morning. The blood had dried into the dirt. And the street, the same street that held fear for years, felt different. Not safe. Not yet, but free. Shops opened slowly. Voices returned in low tones. People walked without looking over their shoulders every second. Children stepped outside again, careful at first, then laughing, like they were remembering how. Sheriff Dalton Cross stood outside his office. Same place, different man. The weight he carried for years had shifted, not lifted, never lifted, but changed. He watched the town move, and for the first time, he wasn't waiting for something to go wrong. Across the street, a horse stood still, saddled, ready. He tightened the strap once more, checked the reins. Simple movements, routine, like he had done it 1,000 times before. Because he had. The saloon door opened. She stepped out, stronger now. The wounds still there, but they no longer defined her. Her steps were steady, her eyes clear. She stopped a few feet from him. Neither spoke at first, because some moments don't need words right away. You're leaving, she said finally. Not a question. He didn't look at her. Yeah. A small pause, the kind filled with everything unsaid. You always do? She asked. He adjusted the saddle slightly. Most times. She stepped closer. Even now. That made him stop. Just for a second. He turned, looked at her, really looked this time. Not like before. Not like a stranger. Not like a problem to solve. But like something real. Something that mattered. There's nothing for me here, he said quietly. The words were simple, but they weren't easy. She held his gaze. There is, she said, a beat. Me. Silence. Soft. Heavy. Honest. For the first time, he didn't have an answer ready. Behind her, a few townspeople stood at a distance, watching, not intruding, just there, among them, Sheriff Cross. He didn't step forward, didn't interrupt. He just gave a small nod, like he understood something others didn't. The wind moved gently through the street, no longer harsh, no longer warning, just Wind. You don't even know me, the man said. She shook her head. No, she admitted. A pause. But I know what you did. Another step closer. And I know why. His jaw tightened slightly. Because that part was harder to carry than any gun. You lost him, she said softly. Not accusing. Not pitying. Just truth. And I lost everything before I even knew I had it. Her voice didn't break. But it came close. Another silence. Longer this time. Then she reached up, slowly, carefully, and took off the necklace. His eyes followed the movement. She held it out. Between them. You said you knew her, she said. A pause. Then this belongs to you too. He didn't take it. Not yet, because taking it meant something. It meant accepting more than memory, more than regret. I gave up a long time ago, he said quietly. She didn't lower her hand. Then don't give up now. The word stayed, hung in the air, refusing to fade. Behind them, life continued, soft, distant, real. Sheriff Cross turned away, walking back toward his office. He didn't need to see the rest, because he already knew whatever choice was made here would matter. The man looked at the necklace, then at her, then back again. Slowly, he reached out and took it, his hand closed around it. Not tight, but firm, like something finally found again. He exhaled quietly. Not relief, not peace, but something close. Then he turned toward the horse, mounted in one smooth motion. For a moment, it looked like he would ride off, like always, like nothing had changed. Then he stopped, looked down at her. You coming? He asked. She didn't hesitate. Not this time. She stepped forward, took his hand, and climbed up behind him. The town watched, silent, respectful, not because they were afraid anymore, but because they understood. Some people don't stay, not because they don't care, but because they carry too much. The horse turned, slowly, toward the open road. No one waved. No one called out. They just watched as the two figures rode away, past the edge of town, past the dust, past the place where fear once lived, into something unknown. The wind followed them briefly, then returned to Raven Hollow, and the town kept breathing, because sometimes it doesn't take an army. It doesn't take a war. Sometimes all it takes is one man who finally chooses not to walk away.